video is for lesson 1.2, words and expressions. Before we begin, choose which is an example of a numeric expression. If you chose letter D, that is correct. A numeric expression is a mathematical phrase that includes numbers, operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, as well as exponents, grouping symbols like parentheses or brackets, and it does not include equal signs or variables. An example of a numeric expression is the quantity of 3 minus 2 plus 12 divided by 4. How do we know how to approach this problem? When we see a problem that has multiple operations in it, we must have a set of rules to follow so that we all approach it the same way. Otherwise, there could be multiple answers to the problem. The way that we know how to solve these problems with multiple operations is by following the order of operations, or PEMDAS. PEMDAS is an acronym for parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction. When we get to the multiplication and division step, we have to make sure we don't necessarily always multiply before we divide. We do whichever comes first in order from left to right. And that can be confusing because when we say PEMDAS, when we have that in our head, we assume M comes before D, but it's whichever one comes first in the problem in order from left to right. And then same with addition and subtraction. We are oftentimes tempted to do the addition before the subtraction, regardless of the order. So we need to remind ourselves that that comes in order again from left to right. Let's take a look at a few examples. This problem has a little bit of everything. We're going to start with the parentheses. We have two sets of parentheses here. We have brackets and we have parentheses. When we have multiple sets, we start with the innermost set of parentheses. So that is 7 minus 5. So we're going to record everything else that we haven't used yet, and then we're going to solve 7 minus 5, which is 2, keeping the exponent, because we do the inside of the parentheses first, and then we'll do the exponent later, and then bringing down the divided by 4, because we haven't used that yet. Now these brackets work the same way as parentheses, so if you don't want to be bothered to draw them that way, you could always just use another set of parentheses, but either way you always start with the parentheses that are farthest inside first. Next will come, we are still in the larger set of parentheses. Within the larger set of parentheses, we will follow the remainder of the order of operations. So what comes next inside that bracket is exponents. So we're going to bring down the 5, we haven't used that yet. Bring down the 11, we're going to do 2 squared next, which when you square something, as a reminder, that means you multiply the base number 2 by itself twice. So 2 times 2, which is 4. Bring down the dividing by 4, because we haven't used that yet. We continue within the parentheses. Next comes multiplication and division. So we have addition and division in those brackets, so we're going to do the division next. That's 11 plus 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. We have one last thing in our brackets, which is addition. 11 plus 1 is 12. And then lastly, when we are down to nothing else to do in that parenthesis or that bracket, that is when we change that to multiplication. So when there's nothing between a number and a bracket or parenthesis, that is multiplication. So 5 times 12, which is 60 as our final answer for that problem. Let's take a look at this next example. Again, we've got a lot going on, so we'll start with P, which is our parentheses. Within our parentheses, we have several different things. We have subtraction, we have addition, and we actually also have division here. So the first thing we're going to do inside the parentheses is our exponent. This is 3 to the third power, which is 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. So we're going to bring down the 2, bring down the plus 3. We aren't using any of that yet. And then we're going to change the 3 to the third power. We're going to change that to 27. We can actually also, now that we're in our second step, we are going to break the rules a little bit, because in this parenthesis we have subtraction on top, addition on the bottom, and then we have division. Normally multiplication and division come first before addition and subtraction. But before I can divide this, I need to know what is this quantity that I'm dividing by this quantity. So I'm actually going to break the rules a little bit and do the addition and subtraction first. And I can actually do these both at the same time. Now that I am done with my parentheses, I have 3 over 9 here, and I'm going to multiply that by 3. Although we haven't reviewed multiplication with fractions yet, as a reminder, we do 3 times 3, which is 9, 1 times 9, which is 9, and that is equal to 1. So we have 2 plus 1, which is equal to 3 as our final answer. One thing to note, and this is a very, very, very common mistake, is that I did not do this 2 plus 3 until the very end, after I multiplied 3 times this quantity. It's very, very common for people to add the 2 plus 3 first and get 5. But if you did that, you would end up with 5 times 3 over 9, which is not the same thing as what we had as our answer. So be careful not to do that addition out front until the very, very end. Pause and take a few minutes to try these 2 examples. For our next example, we are going to be replacing variables with numbers. And we want to remember that when you have a number in front of a variable like 8x, that means 8 times x. So keep that in mind as we do this next example. So we have the expression 6 plus x times the quantity of 5y to the second power minus x to the fourth power. We are going to solve that when x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 3. So the first thing we need to do is we need to replace x with 2, and then we also need to replace the y with a 3. So this becomes 5 times 3 to the second power minus, and then this is x is 2 to the fourth power. Again, we'll start with parentheses, and then inside those parentheses, the first thing we'll do is exponents. So we have 2 separate exponents. We can actually do them both at the same time because they don't affect one another. So 5 times 3 to the second power, remember that's 3 times itself twice, that's 9. So that's 9. And then 2 to the fourth power, that means 2 4 times. So we have 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 times 2, which is 8, and then 8 times 2, which is 16 to put in there. Next, inside of our parentheses still, we have multiplication and subtraction. We will do the multiplication first. So keeping everything out front, we didn't touch any of that yet. 5 times 9 is 45, minus 16, we'll finish that. And then when I'm down to one value in my parentheses, I can get rid of the parentheses. This is 29. 45 minus 16, just as a reminder, you can't do 5 minus 6. You need to borrow 1 from the 40s and make that 30, and then add the 10 to the 5 and make that 15. So 15 minus 6 is 9, 3 minus 1 is 2. And then here we have addition and multiplication. We'll do the multiplication next. 2 times 29 is 58. Okay, so if you don't know that in your head or you can't figure that out, 30 times 2 is 60, and then take away those 2. But you can also do it by hand, so we have 6. I'm going to scooch over here. 6 plus 58 as our final answer is 64. A lot going on in these problems. Take them one step at a time and follow the PEMDAS. Try this problem on your own.